Have you ever had something bad happen? Then suddenly, 3 more problems appear? Maybe your car breaks down. Your phone stops working. Then you get an unexpected bill. Or maybe you get sick, miss an important meeting, and your internet stops working at home. You start thinking, seriously, why is everything happening at once? Americans have a very common expression for situations like this. We say, when it rains, it pours. And today, I'll teach you what this idiom means, how Americans use it, common situations where you'll hear it, how to use it naturally in conversation, and finally, we will end with some pronunciation practice. Let's get started. So what does it mean when it rains, it pours? Let's break this idiom down. Think about real rain for a moment. Sometimes it rains lightly. You only get a few drops. But other times the rain comes down very hard and fast. That's called a pour or a downpour. Now let's look at this idiom. In this expression, the rain represents problems, difficulties, or bad events. And the pouring represents those problems coming all at once. So when Americans say, when it rains, it pours, they mean when problems start happening, they often seem to arrive one after another or all at the same time. And it's as if life doesn't just send you one problem, instead it sends several. I want you to notice one thing. It doesn't mean actual rain. It's about difficult situations in life. For example, I lost my wallet, then my car wouldn't start, and then I got a parking ticket. When it rains, it pours. In other words, everything went wrong at once. Now, let's look at some real-life examples of how we would actually use this idiom. Imagine this. You wake up late for work. Your alarm never goes off. You jump out of bed and rush to get dressed. Then you spill coffee all over your shirt. Now you have to change clothes. When you finally leave the house, your car won't start. You call a tow truck. Because of all the delays, you're already late. Then your boss calls and says, don't forget your presentation starts in 10 minutes. You sigh and say, of course, when it rains, it pours. Why? Because one problem was followed by another, and another, and another. And that's exactly how Americans use this expression. Let's look at another example. Let's imagine this woman who owns a house. One day, she notices water leaking from her roof. That's already expensive. A few days later, her air conditioner stops working. Then, her washing machine breaks. Then, she gets a surprise repair bill. She tells her friend, I've spent thousands of dollars this month. Her friend asks, what happened? She laughs and says, honestly, when it rains, it pours. Again, multiple problems happened close together. This is the perfect use of this idiom. Let's look at another example. Mark had been unemployed for several months. Finally, he got invited to an important job interview. He was excited because this could be the opportunity that he had been waiting for. The morning of the interview, everything seemed fine. But when he left his house, he got stuck in heavy traffic. While sitting in traffic, he realized he had forgotten copies of his resume at home. Then, just before arriving, his car got a flat tire. At that point, Mark couldn't help but laugh. He called the interviewer to explain the situation and said, wow, when it rains, it pours. Why did he use this expression? Because it wasn't just one problem. First, he got stuck in traffic. Then, he forgot his resume. Then, he got a flat tire. The problems kept coming, one after another. That's exactly what Americans mean when they say, when it rains, it pours. Sometimes, life feels like a light rain of problems. And at other times, it feels like a downpour, like everything seems to go wrong at once. How else do Americans use this idiom? You might hear someone say, I lost my job and my car broke down the same week. When it rains, it pours. Or, my dog got sick, my refrigerator stopped working, and I had to pay unexpected taxes. When it rains, it pours. Or, we had one problem after another. When it rains, it pours. I want you to notice something. Americans usually say this idiom after describing several problems. It's a way of saying everything seemed to go wrong at once. Now, let's work on your pronunciation. Repeat after me. When it rains, it pours. When it rains, it pours. When it rains, it pours. Idioms are one of the fastest ways to take your English to the next level. To get stronger with your idiom usage in English, make sure to take a look at this video here.